Hi guys, I'm Dee Harris and welcome to another episode of Hanging Out with Dee. Today I have with me another amazing guest, Robert Grady, food advocate.
Hi Dee.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Happy to have you.
Very happy to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I met Robert at Sticks and Stones a few weeks ago.
Yeah, we were hanging out there.
We were hanging out there. Mon. And you had some really interesting information about food. But let's rewind a little bit. You're a former Navy guy.
I am a retired Navy guy.
Yeah.
21 years in the Navy, retired Navy chief.
Retired Navy chief.
Yeah, and I suppose you're wondering, how did I get to this place?
How did you get to this point? Tell us all.
Well, one of my last jobs in the Navy, I was at the Naval Air Station in Maine, and I went and checked in, and the commander of the base said to me, Chief Grady, by the way, one of your jobs is going to be the command fitness coordinator for the Naval Air Station. I'm thinking to myself, there are 10,000 men and women that I'm not responsible for, and I barely make it through the PRT myself. So I'm like, okay, fine. So the next thing I know, I find myself down in Virginia being trained as a personal fitness trainer from the Cooper Institute for Aerobics Research. And I discovered that the issues around me not being able to run were more psychology, and that suddenly I found myself able to run a half marathon, which I did within 6 months, and I was running 17 miles a day. Wow. And things of that sort. And the biggest element was the discovery that lifestyle choices was really a significant impact on men and women being able to successfully pass their physical fitness tests.
Correct.
And most often it was because of obesity or being overfat. And through that, I became very aware of the impact of proper nutrition and diet to wellness and well-being. So I carried that with me. I retired. I stopped running as much. Actually, I don't run much at all. I gained a lot of weight. I didn't really care anymore. I was vacationing. I was retired.
Correct.
And years went on, and life changes happen. My kids grow up. I have a granddaughter who's now 8 years old. A few years ago, she was 6. Yeah. And this whole thing about GMOs, and what is a GMO, and the GMO labeling initiative, and healthy food choices, started coming into the forefront of my conversations with different friends. Yeah. And it became very alarming to me, and it sort of brought me back to the experiences that I had learned in helping all these men and women in the Navy. And I realized that we're in trouble. We as the United States, our citizenry is in trouble, and it's not something we're wittingly involved in. It's been projected upon us that we have to consume these things. And most recently, a few years ago, we had this GMO labeling initiative, and there was a very hard-fought battle here in Connecticut in order to bring that to pass. But we did with stipulations, and it's still not required yet because other states need to be participating and so forth. But it brought it to the table.
So what is GMO for our audience?
GMO is, it's called, the term GMO is genetically modified organism. Really what it talks about, it's a transgenic mutation. There are two types of genetics that are involved in life. There's vertical and horizontal. Vertical is the hereditary things over time, hybridization throughout history. And transgenics is where they take species that wouldn't normally coexist together and force those genes together to form something unique. And in many cases, it's foreign and alien, and the body has a library of what it accepts as food. And people who have autoimmune response in some cases are responding because the library of this being a tomato, though we see it's a tomato, it smells like a tomato, looks like a tomato, the body doesn't register it as a tomato, so it fights back. It throws out its antibodies to help protect itself. And you have this autoimmune gone awry, because of these different things. And so that's one piece of it. So
did your granddaughter have any food-related things, or just because she was your granddaughter, you became more aware?
Thank you. That's exactly the point. And the thing that upset me was her parents aren't necessarily aware at the time, and I felt it was my responsibility to edify them and to help prevent her from being exposed to these risks, because the risks are greater than GMOs. I look at GMOs as their own issue, but they are also, I consider what to be like the old term Trojan horse. Yeah. Because most of the GMOs are manufactured to enable industrial agriculture to perform more efficiently.
Correct.
That application is all about pest control, whether
Correct.
it's an insect or weeds, and there are different kinds of pesticides that are very effective to eradicate those pests. However, we don't want them to destroy the crop we're trying to grow.
Correct.
And so we've taken this technology and we've introduced these GMOs, if you will, so that they resist the exposure they're being given from a pesticide so that they don't die. For example,
Superfruit.
The superfoods are creating super weeds because
Correct.
now it's come to the point where there's not enough pesticides being applied to eradicate the stronger weeds that are nature has created to combat this. So in my opinion, though GMOs are in their own right very challenging for the human body to process, and there's serious concern about that, I'm really, my discussions and when I talk to people always about pesticides, and namely one called glyphosate. Glyphosate is commonly referred to as Roundup, and it's used everywhere. It's in all the parks that you go, parks and recreation, in your garden, and unfortunately most often it's used on farm products, and also conventionally grown products. So you have this pesticide in everything, and it's very dangerous.
Correct. Wow.
That's
good stuff.
That's
good stuff.
It's awful stuff, actually.
Yeah. No, but it's good to hear that.
Yeah.
Good conversation and good awareness for us. So tell us about Donna.
Donna.
Shout out to Donna.
Hey, Donna. How you doing, baby? My nose is not too shiny, and my hair is rest in place. Donna, I met Donna online, actually.
Donna's your girlfriend.
She's my girlfriend. We've been together for several years, and the reason I'm here in Connecticut this year living is that I decided after several years dating long distance that I would move down here. And Donna is she was a food advocate way before I was, and she's very health conscious, and she has helped me bring to the ground to make it grounded, if you will. The diet requirements and the supplementation needs and stuff like that are really essential to maintaining good health, and she's really been instrumental.
She's been a critical part of your...
She's been absolutely a critical part, and of course she does not want to be in front of people talking about like this kind of stuff, and she gets annoyed when I do because it doesn't stop. It just goes on and on, like right now. But we make a good team, and I appreciate her support and backing in this stuff.
Awesome. All right, guys, it's time for Dee's Life Questions. All right, what inspires you?
There's a few things that inspire me. The first thing that inspires me is people. People inspire me because I believe through my life, my discovery is that all people want to do well and be well. And what inspires me is love and laughter.
Why?
Because basically, when we want to get biblical for a second, take it to the root. God is omnipotent. He's everywhere. Well, at the same token, love is all those things as well. And with love, as soon as we start saying love meets this criteria, then suddenly we've humanized it to the point where we've diminished the omnipotence of love. So to me, love is essential. Then there's some crazy people out there. My favorite crazy person in the world who ever lived was St. Francis of Assisi. He was a nut. The guy had all the money in the world to do everything he wanted to do in the world, and he turned his back to it all, letting go of the material things to really enjoy and embrace love. You would find this guy laughing in the woods with animals, with people. He was just a wonderful human being, and I really, he inspired me. And a more human person in our generations was a professor from UCLA. His name was Leo Buscaglia. He's since passed. He died in 1998, I believe, in Arizona. But back in the 70s, he taught at UCLA, and he had a class he called Living, Loving, and Learning. And the inspiration at that moment was late 1979. I was a lonely sailor living down in Jacksonville, Florida, from Portland, Maine, if you will. Totally different worlds, and I wasn't really happy with the way things were going in my life. And this guy,
in the Navy at that time.
I was in the Navy at the time, and Leo was doing his little pitch on his book, Living, Loving, and Learning, and he taught me what namaste meant.
What does it mean?
Namaste means that the goodness in my soul and my heart finds the goodness in the soul in your heart. And when these two connect, there is a synergy. And I'm abusing it for all you people who are in yoga, but you get the idea what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Because he told me that term once a long time ago, but I never heard the term, but I heard his actions and his behaviors. And he was all about embracing, he was all about love, he was all about food, he was all about laughter. And those all together have pretty much what inspired me. So I enjoy these moments, you know, try to keep it simple. Dee, if I meet you on the street somewhere, I'm going to smile and say hi. If you're a cash register clerk, you know, I'm going to make you smile, because to me, it's a moment that we're going to share together that is ours, you know, so that's how I feel.
Namaste.
Namaste.
That is beautiful.
Yes.
What do you know for sure? That's a question that means if there were an apocalypse, if everything that you know fell apart, what is that like one thing like in the core of your being that you know is no matter what?
Love. That fear, the fear that someone experienced or something, and here I am talking about an apocalypse that I have not experienced, but the fear is only going to be as insurmountable as we allow it to be. If we embrace something at our core that is greater than fear itself, then we shall overcome this thing. And it is the community of people together, once they can lay down their anxiety and fears with each other.
Definitely.
Then we can move on from that place. So it doesn't matter what that place is.
Wonderful. I love that. All right, guys, it's time for our favorite segment. I don't like that, man.
Oh man, not the I don't like that.
All right, Robert Grady, former Navy chief. What gets on your last itty bitty nerve? Tell us all.
Stereotyping and the militarization of the police.
All right, go for it.
That's very painful to me. I think that in America we take it to extremes. In fact, it's gotten to the point where even the ACLU has published a report in June 2014 that talks specifically to municipalities, local governments, state governments, and federal governments to retrain our police forces to have a less militarized approach to how they police. I mean, people say, well, it's all 10% of what you see is on YouTube or whatever, and it's awful. Well, you know what? Everyone is on YouTube. It's the way people communicate today.
Correct.
And the fact is that it's happening, and I have a real problem with that.
Yeah, we can see that it's happening.
I definitely have a problem. We need to change that. That very upsets me. Another one is the decision by the Supreme Court of the United States in January 2010 called Citizens United, which basically took the gloves off for any corporation with resources, that they could apply their funds to any campaign for any party that they want with impunity across the country. Created such a problem for local government and local governance for local people who are trying to make a difference. It happened in Delaware, it happened in Maryland, it happened across the country where you didn't think there would be people who would be usurped from their position, and suddenly there's this no-name person in office, and people are wondering where it comes from. It comes from because funding's coming from untoward places.
Wow, that's interesting stuff.
Yeah,
We're learning new stuff today. We don't like that, man.
I don't like that, man. There's more, but we'll settle it.
Yes, we'll sit with that. All right, guys, it's time for Say What? All right, guys, it's time for Say What, and as you can tell, our retired Navy esteemed guest here is quite passionate about food and passionate about the community. But before we get into what he has to say, there's a really cool video I found in my research. Let's go to that now.
Genetically engineered foods have deeply infiltrated the American food supply. Almost 90% of crops like corn, soybeans, canola, and sugar beets grown in the United States are now genetically modified. Genetic engineering promises increased crop yields, lower costs for farmers, and reduced use of herbicides. But are these goals really being achieved? Are you benefiting from genetically engineered crops or paying a dear price for you and your children's future? It's time for an awakening. Learn to separate the truths from the myths on genetic engineering. Genetic engineering is totally different from natural breeding methods. Its promoters claim that genetic engineering is a safe and beneficial process, even going as far as saying that it's an extension of natural plant propagation. The truth: this is a laboratory-based technique where a foreign gene is inserted into the DNA of the plant. This is an uncontrolled process because the site of insertion is random and may potentially damage the plant's genetic makeup. The mutations that occurred during the genetic engineering process can lead to many unexpected changes in the resulting crop, such as poor crop performance, alterations in the food's nutritional content, toxic and allergenic effects, and unforeseen harm to the environment. Genetic engineering does not reduce pesticide use. The proliferation of genetically engineered Roundup-ready crops has led to an increase in the amount of pesticides and herbicides used. The allowed residue limit of glyphosate, the world's top weed killer, has also been increased. Monsanto promotes Roundup, its glyphosate-based pesticide, as safe and having low toxicity, but these claims are based on outdated and questionable studies. Monsanto Agriculture France was even charged with false advertising after claiming that Roundup is biodegradable and leaves the soil clean after use. Roundup is not biodegradable. In fact, Roundup's glyphosate is classified by the European Union to be dangerous for the environment. Nature always adapts, paving the way for glyphosate-resistant superweeds. This requires the increased use of stronger pesticides. Producers of the genetically engineered seeds benefit from the massive failure because of higher farmer dependence on their toxic chemicals. Genetic engineering does not increase crop yield potential. Genetically engineered crops do not increase intrinsic yield and actually have the opposite effect. Glyphosate depletes soil quality by killing the natural nutrients and organisms that are necessary for the plant's development, leading to plant diseases. Glyphosate is highly invasive and can mix with rain, air, water, soil, and groundwater. Genetic engineering creates serious environmental problems. Increased pesticide and herbicide use affects wildlife and the non-pest insect population. The increasing propagation of Roundup-ready corn and soybeans heavily contributed to the fall in monarch butterfly populations in North America. Pesticides affect the health of both GMO and non-GMO plants and can potentially kill them. Studies reveal that glyphosate leads to increased rates of sudden death syndrome, SDS, a plant disease that causes plants to turn yellow and die.
Wow, this was a powerful video to watch. What do you think about what we saw, Robert? I know you have a lot to say.
I wish it was just that bad. It's actually worse. It's worse because the pesticide glyphosate is first and foremost, it's a patented antibiotic, so it kills bacteria. That's its purpose in life when it was originally formulated. Secondly, it's used as an herbicide. And third discovery was it's very effective as a desiccant. So even if you're not eating genetically modified foods, glyphosate is used in conventional crops such as potatoes and any kind of tubers and many grains, because what it does is it dries out the grains, dries out the roots of the potato crop, so it makes it easier to harvest. And in the grains, it forces the seeds to bud, or the buds to seed, and so they can collect a more fruitful harvest of grains. So you hear about wheat gluten intolerance and things like that. And whenever I hear someone say that, the first thing I think to myself is it's really a pesticide issue. It's not you're not allergic to wheat gluten. You're allergic to what the wheat gluten is doing to your body as a result of being contaminated. And that's why I focus in my conversations mostly about glyphosate, because it's more insidious.
Correct.
Than GMOs are one thing, but something that you expect to be not contaminated is, and that's really bad.
So the bottom line is Monsanto created this idea of GMOs to make it easier for farmers to farm, to make it easier for them to collect
Right. It's all about
their crops.
It's about industrial agriculture,
Correct.
business efficiency.
Make it
It's
faster,
a business model.
easicer, correct.
That's right.
And now what's happening is that it's turning around to bite us.
It is, and what the discovery is is that there's a lot of cancers, for example, liver cancer, lymph node cancer, thyroid cancer, diabetes, many types of correlated diseases and disorders are now being directly attributed to the introduction of glyphosate. And they say correlation does not equal causation, but when you look over different kinds of illnesses that people are experiencing in the last 20 years, there's a direct correlation in the increased use of the pesticide and the occurrences of these disorders in people.
Wow.
It's very frustrating to me.
All right, let's go into your first graphic. You said, wake up!
Wake up. That's what this is. This
Yeah.
is a wake up. That video is a great example of a wake up.
Yeah.
It's to become aware. You know, when I was in the Navy,
Yeah.
I ran 1.5 miles every 6 months because I had to. I didn't think I could run 2 miles, but I could run 1.5 miles. When I went to training in Virginia and learned about exercise physiology, and I discovered the issue I had was a breathing issue.
Really?
I didn't know how to breathe. I suddenly went from running 1.5 miles to running 6, 7, 8 miles.
Hold on.
And
So you're saying that the difference between you running 1.5 miles and 6, 7 miles was just in your breathing?
learning to breathe.
Wow.
I didn't know how to breathe. And once I got past that threshold, it opened the whole door. So now the wake up component with health and diet is that you just need to be aware that this is real. This isn't the back laboratory people talking under the radar in little social cliques
Yeah.
at Sticks and Stones Farm. You know, it's in your grocery store.
Correct.
If you see a grocery store product that has a bright, flashy packaging on it, pretty much, and it's a food product, it probably has contaminations, these kinds of contaminants in it, and to avoid it. That's why they're right in the door front, so you can grab them and go right to the register.
Good point. Next graphic. Shift your paradigm.
This is the time when you need to decide that you're going to change and that what you've been doing up to this point isn't good enough, all right? It's not good enough to just go to the produce section of the grocery store and say, I'm going to start getting more of this, but I'm still going to have, you know, the box of Cheerios or the box of whatever it is you eat. You need to decide that you're taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And that you're going to make a fundamental change in how you view food moving forward, and that you shift your paradigm to not allow. For example, my house does not have any conventionally, well, it has some conventionally grown foods, but there's not one GMO product in my house, and let's say 98% of the food I consume is organic.
Wonderful.
Even that
So
is.
therefore you go out of your way to shop at farmers markets.
Farmers markets, Costco, BJ's, your local grocery store, Common Bond Market, Chamomile here in Danbury. There are many places where you can shop locally and talk to people who are very knowledgeable and skillful who can help guide you on your path to healthy diet choices. And keep in mind that it doesn't have to be as expensive as you perceive it to be, because if I was eating normal food, okay, my other place I would shop would be at a pharmacy, because I would have to be getting medicines
Yes, that's
for
in
health
one
for
of
my
your
health.
slides.
So,
Yeah.
so it's important.
Next graphic. Ditch the diet.
Look, I did this for a living years ago, okay? It wasn't about going on an Atkins diet or going on Jenny Craig or anything like that that made a difference that was substantiating and meaningful for somebody. It was making a lifestyle choice to incorporate this kind of a diet. I mean, I have friends who have spent maybe $1,000 on dietary products before they go on vacation so they can lose 20 pounds before they hit the road.
Fit into the swimsuit.
To fit into the swimsuit. You know, so you're going to spend the money on that, but you're not going to invest in just eating healthy food. Keeping in mind that when you eat healthy food, all right, that your body is getting more nutrient dense products into it, so your body is going to require less of it over the
food.
long time.
That
So
is
you're going to
correct.
consume less foods. And when you shop around, you can also shop the end caps. You know, you can get organic food that isn't always expensive. In the long term, it's going to be value added, and you can do it. Co-op with your friends. Go to CSAs with different farms and get your family friends together to do this. It doesn't have to be something you do on your own.
Awesome. Next graphic. Food is toxic and so are you.
This is a reality check, folks. I mean, everyone in this studio right now is toxic. I'd have to say I kind of think I'm less toxic than you three.
It's like I'm less toxic than I am.
But the fact of the matter is that if you're consuming foods and you're not mindful of what you're consuming, you're eating pesticides and other kinds of toxins and chemicals. And it's demonstrated right now that glyphosate, for example, the World Health Organization has just came out with a report not 8 weeks ago that said of the 4 grades of carcinogens, where grade 4 means you can eat it all day long and it's perfectly healthy, to 1 being this is a known carcinogen.
Correct.
Glyphosate has been determined to be a level 2.
Wow.
So it's a probable carcinogen. This is the World Health Organization communicating out to the world outside the United States that this is serious.
That the thing that we spray,
the thing that we spray
on
in all of
our
our food,
foods,
no matter whether it's GMOs or conventionally grown food,
has a probability to make us
has a
sick.
probable carcinogen in it.
Fantastic.
It's very
Next
annoying.
slide. Pay the farmer, not the pharmacist.
Absolutely, please. You know, when you choose to eat a healthy diet, when you go and seek out local produce, it's not to say that it's all clean. I mean, I know of local farmers who use pesticides, and I asked them, I said, what are you using for integrated pest control? What is your methodology? As soon as I hear that term pesticide or glyphosate or Roundup, I'm moving on. I'm going to go shop somewhere else because I cannot allow those chemicals into my body. So I will choose to go to the farmer, and by doing so, I reduce my occurrence of illness. And I have not taken a medication of any stripe for years. And you know, I'm almost 60 years old. You know, I'm
Really?
feeling pretty good. My gut doesn't. My gut used to bother me.
Not
you know, I used to
anymore.
have digestive issues. And since I began this lifestyle change, not a diet, but a lifestyle change,
You're much
I don't. And I can tell when I don't. If I happen to opt out for a moment because I have this, I gotta have a piece of ham, or whatever it is, and I choose to eat it, you know, I know, my body tells me.
Yeah. Next graphic. Supplement well.
You know, there's nutrition specialists and people in all stripes will argue that you don't need to supplement, but the fact of the matter is, if you ever been to the mall and when they used to have these big silos of candies that were in these different things, and you would see that they would be depleted, some would be full because no one liked them, but you'd see these different various levels of candies in these jars. And I liken that to each one of our own DNA has a certain value store of nutrients that it can replenish normally through normal diet, but there are some elements that are weak, like some of us may be lactose intolerance, you know, some of us may have a tendency to be obese, whatever the case may be. But we don't have a perfect inventory in our bodies,
So
and we can't.
supplements help
And we
to
can't,
balance
and
out.
we can't get that inventory from our normal shopping. So,
Correct.
getting really high-quality supplements that are biodegradable, that are bioavailable, I should say, that
big
are easily digested by the body is important and essential. And I highly recommend supplement. And don't do it on your own. Go ask. Go to Chamomile. Go to Common Bond Market
Local
in
health
Monroe,
food stores,
or
yeah.
in Shelton, and ask.
Correct. Wow. Robert Grady. Very informative time with you. It's been really great hanging out with Robert. Boy, did we learn a lot today. We learned a new big word, glyphosate.
Oh, it's painful.
And, you know, we're now aware that it's on most of our foods. It's what they spray to get the insects off the foods. But then now we're reaping what comes afterwards. It's hurting our bodies. It's hurting the plants. It's hurting the butterflies. So we learned some good stuff today. Check us out on Facebook. You know where we are, hanging out with Dee. See you next time. Be kind to someone. Bye. Thanks, Robert.